Hello and welcome to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. I am, of course, your host, Sandy Lowries, and the Good Girl Confessional podcast is proudly brought to us by WB40, Women Beyond 40, a platform for women 40, 50, 60 and beyond. You can check us out at WB40.com. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are grateful to record this podcast on. In my case, it is the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and we would like to pay our respects to their leaders, past, present, and emerging. Today on the podcast, I am very excited to speak to my special guest, Susan Dean. Susan is an extraordinary woman who is the founder of Dean Publishing, and as such, she is very excited and passionate about sharing the stories and expertise of so many people through their books. She is a very heart-centric person and business coach, and it comes through. She's very passionate about everything coming down to the stories of other people. I hope you really enjoy this. If you've ever wanted to publish your own book, this is the podcast for you. Please welcome to the Confessional, Susan Dean. Hello, Susan, and welcome to the Good Girl Confessional. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's actually very lovely to have you. And I know it's taken a little while, but I'm super excited to have you in the confessional. So tell us a little bit about your background before we go in and tell everyone what you do right now, because what you're doing right now is amazing. But I'm super interested to learn about the background that got you here.
Yeah, definitely. I'll try and make it short. Basically, from school, I think, at, the age that I am, it was like you left school only if you had a job, I wasn't allowed to go on the dole, so it was like secretarial work was it then. So the advantages is I know how to touch type now. I'm not like the kids now where they do it with their thumbs and their fingers. I still don't know how they do it. So that was a good advantage, but it was never what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be a social worker, but it meant 4 years of uni and the old HSC, which it was called in my day. And school was for friends. It wasn't really for learning. So I was like, no, I'm out of here. Went and did a secretarial course, and it wasn't what I wanted. I ended up going back to school and doing a youth worker training, and didn't realize you could, didn't realize at the time there's other paths you can go at to still do what you want. So I became a youth worker, and I worked with a lot of adolescents. They were called in those days the old wards of the state, before the government kind of went, I want the responsibility, I'll just privatize it all. So I worked with a lot of, high-risk kids in a stand-up night shift. Had some doozy of some nights, but I learned a lot then about the power of story. And it was all about, I would, share a story. I had a friend that did this, and she, decided that she wanted to choose what she wanted to do in life. And she went and done all these things. And then, those kind of my friend John stories. And then, I'd watch the kids light up. Do you think I could too? Yeah, let's go learn guitar. What else do you want to do? So I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but I started to excel, and they started to give me one-on-one with clients. I ended up getting hired by the Young Women's Unit to work with some high-risk kids, but it was all just about conversation. It was all just about having chats and telling stories and asking questions. And at the time, I didn't know what it was, but essentially it was timeline therapy. It was coaching. It was, giving them a compelling future. It was all these things that I didn't know what they were until later on, but by default, it was what I was. I used to have kids come and stay at my house. Mum, can she come and live at my house? So it's always been who I was. So that was my journey before, sort of getting into what I do now.
Oh, and such a powerful story too, Susan, which is why I wanted our listeners to hear that. I think it's quite extraordinary, as you say, the power of story to give hope and to help people to feel they have a better future ahead of them is quite an extraordinary thing.
Yeah, it's the power of story and giving hope, I think, knowing that even if you're in a bad time now, it doesn't mean it's going to be forever.
Absolutely. But also too, what you gave all of these high-risk kids was an opportunity to share their story and to talk about their lives. Yeah, which is really important, because I think that there's a lot of, kids who face trauma who don't always have the opportunity to share those stories in a safe.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times they don't. It's not that they share a lot of their stories. It's that they've got someone to listen to how they feel at the time. Because a part of the project was that they had to be taken to, say, a psychologist. I'm not saying all psychologists are the same, but they would then regress and tell their story, and it wasn't ready for them to tell their story because it was quite traumatic and they didn't want to relive it. So I more talked about, well, where are you now, regardless of the past? What do you want to create for the future? But these young kids, as they get older, that's when we tell our story, because we know that we're carrying this around with us, and unless we share it, unless we open up and share it and heal that, but at the time they're quite young, they wouldn't really like telling about their past or what happened. They more wanted to have a compelling future. Tell me where I can go, because I don't like where I've been. And I think that's a little bit like adults today. What I love about, this is that people are now sharing their stories and their lessons that maybe these younger people can pick up those stories and maybe heal a lot earlier.
That's such a valid point, because as a person who faced trauma as a child, I think you're 100% right. I don't know that you do tell your story then. And it's only sort of now in my later years that I am sharing my truth and my story and getting, my journey out there as well. I think that's so true and such a valid point. So thank you so much. I think, that's actually a very important thing for people to understand as well. So let's talk about what happened beyond youth work, because I want to know, how did you start working with John Gray, obviously the author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? How did that come about?
Well, a little bit like I said, I was a youth worker. I was working night shift. I had children then, and it was just becoming to the point where, I was on call and it wasn't working, having young children. So I left as a youth worker, even though, they bring it down to 2 days. And, it got to the point where I was working with pretty high-risk kids and it just wasn't where I was moving to. So I then, and plus it had gone privatised and the whole industry changed so much. You were at quite risk at different times, And I thought, well, I've got a family now. It's not just thinking about me. So I left, and I actually went on a little bit of a tangent of helping, build up a business, which was around jewellery, and I loved it. But I always said in the beginning, hey, it was like a small family business, and I said, I'll help, but it's not where I want to be. I need to be heart-centered. I need to be somewhere where I'm making a difference. And it was funny enough, talk about John Gray. He says, earn some little points by building a fire. But my husband was building a fire, and we'd moved to our beautiful home through some coaching. That's another story, but we'd moved to our beautiful home in the Macedon Ranges, and my husband was building a fire, and he knew I was searching, for something else. And he cut out a little piece of paper that said, do you like helping people? He went, maybe this is for you. And I rang up and found out John Gray had started up a coaching franchise at the time, and license, that you could use his material and you could help coach and be trained by him. And so that's basically where it started. So I started running John Gray's events. I would talk, I would share my story. Then John would be on a video on the screen. Yep, showing my age. It was a VHS cassette player. And we put that in. It's now all digital. So I put that in, and he'd talk and I'd educate relationships. I've been with my childhood sweetheart. We've been married for over 30, going on 33 years. And so, I knew the importance of relationships. So I started to work down there, but it was relationship to yourself, was relationship to your partner, relationship to everyone. Everything's around relationships. And I'm a true believer, if your relationships are working well, then so do you. And so it was a great path. And then I got to know John, and he would have some great conversations. He was well beyond his years at the time. And that was just the path I went through. And then, of course, I went on and learned so many things that I learned along the way. I'm a trainer's trainer in NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, all those things. But what it just did was make me realize, well, kind of this is what I was doing some of back then as a youth worker without even knowing. You know, it just had a name for it because I was coaching them. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And all of those things. But that's how I got to work with John Gray, and just got back from Vegas actually last week, where I published I published a book with him called Love and Coaching, and that was an honor because he rang me and said, my publisher's gone under. I'm halfway through this book with all my coaches. I know you can help me. Let's make this happen. So so that was a great privilege, and just got to spend some, 2-3 days with John 3 weeks ago in Vegas, which was awesome. So it's been a long-term relationship.
How beautiful, and congratulations to you on that new project. That's awesome. But it kind of is a beautiful segue to take us into what you do now, because clearly, intuitively, you've always been a storyteller, and intuitively, you've always been inspired for others to be able to share their stories as well. Tell us all about your extraordinary business, which is, of course, Dean Publishing.
Yes. So as you said, story's always been a part of my life, and making a difference and coaching. And it kind of was all in one, and helping others, to build their business. So I kind of, being in my mid-50s now, back when I sort of started in this industry, I've always been an entrepreneur and always loved getting in and doing things as long as they were meaningful. And so the book publishing came about when I was helping, we were helping a business actually in golf, of all things, and we started to work towards doing a book, bringing all the hole-in-ones into a book. And that was with a partner at the time. And then I was helping another person build up a series which I was a partner in as well. And then it was like, I've always loved story. I used to write poems. You know how people write songs? I used to write songs. I used to be in a little band at school and all those fun things. But it was always about words, the power of words, and writing poetry and all of that. So when it came to, dabbling in the publishing, it was like, what do I want to do? And so when everything fell apart, because, as we all know, in stories in life, we have ups and downs, and I had some pretty downs and pretty much lost everything. And I went, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to do for the rest of my life? And that's a part of the formula that I do, which is design. Design your life, design what you want, because then you'll always do what you love. And I put everything together, and I went, I love watching people's businesses grow. I love story and the power of story. I love books. I love being able to help people get all their knowledge out of their head, because I believe if we do share forward our stories, if we share forward our teachings, together we can change the world. Because people can all afford a $25, $30 book. That could change their life. If we share, how did we get over it? What did we do? Maybe those younger people might heal a lot quicker. Maybe they won't wait till later in life. Maybe they might be able to read a certain book that goes, well, gosh, I'm going to start a bit earlier in self-development, or I'm going to get help a little bit earlier. So the power of the books to me is, multifaceted, and watching people thrive by holding a book in their hand that they've put all their heart and soul into, and we as a team have been able to help make it even better. So I decided that not everyone's a writer, but everyone has stories, and everyone has something that they can share from their heart and their knowledge. So why, most authors used to have to be writers. So why do you need to, write a book if you're not really a writer, but you're someone that's got something to share? So I've got a purpose-built Dean Manor, which is in the beautiful Macedon Ranges, and I have in-house editors, ghostwriters, copywriters, creative writers, proofreaders, editors, graphic designers, we bring in photographers, videographers. So there's one place where someone can get all their knowledge out of their head and into a book without having to be a great writer, but they might be a good talker and they might want to say, I want this in it, but we help massage it. So for me, it's that. It's helping people share their story, share their message forward is so important to me, because the power of that, the ripple effect of that is huge. So, that's it. And we hold people's hands. Sometimes people are crying as they're going through their book. It's quite an emotional. I want my team to be able to be there in that place and just hold that space for them to heal as they get through their book. Some people, they're about business and they know what they want and they just want everything in there. And we want to have that expertise to understand what they're talking about, if they're talking spiritually, if they're talking, from an entrepreneurial point of view. So my team are, hand selected, and they're amazing at being able to nurture and help someone from concept of idea to finished book. And all the logistics of that as well, from formatting, printing, distribution, and then because I've got that entrepreneurial brain, I coach them first and I get that done. And then they go off with my amazing team until they've got a book in their hands. So I kind of get to live my best life right now. And both my daughters, which I didn't know at the time, have both said, I want to work for the company. I want to work. So it's turned into a family business. We even have a cot out the back for my granddaughter because she comes and plays here as well. And while we work. And so I'm absolutely blessed that I get to do everything that I want every single day. And it's just like dreams can come true. And, I've worked hard for it. I've manifested a lot and I've worked damn hard for it. But, and so now it's just about how do we get people's stories out there, because there's so many people we can help with a simple book.
Oh, I absolutely love this new, the passion that you have for this is so evident, which is what I love, because I'm all about, as you know, everything about Women Beyond 40 and the Good Girl Confessional has always been about the power of stories, and women, especially over the age of 40, 50, 60, telling those stories and sharing their wisdom, I like to call it, but to get it out there. So I absolutely love what you do. So what's really interesting to me and what I'd like to have a chat about is the swing that has happened over, I would say, the last 5-10 years of self-publishing for people who perhaps always thought, I'll never get a book deal, I won't be able to go to a traditional publisher. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the easy part is self-publishing is, even when I started back in publishing, it's changed so much. So self-publishing, there's platforms now. You can, find yourself an editor, find yourself a designer and self-publish your book. A bit like an owner-builder. You got to find the electrician and the plumber and everything. What I found is sometimes if people didn't really know you just put in a piece of paper and they just went off and edited it and did all of that, which is what a lot of what happens. They don't get you. They don't kind of get your voice and your heart and your passion and your soul into the book. And so self-publishing is great if you want to get a book published. You don't have to wait for the publishing deal. We're a little bit in between. We're kind of like the builder, where you go, this is what I want, this is what I want to design, but can you go organize it? Can you get all of those people together? So we are predominantly self-publishing. You own all the rights as the author. You get to have a say. But what we do is we've got a team of professionals to make sure there's no plagiarism in there. It's beautifully presented. It's written well. And we're kind of the done-for-you service where, you pay the whole team to do it. But then the graphic designer is talking to the editor, so we make sure we get the right cover that's going to attract the right person. So you've got a team of people working on it. So that's the analogy I kind of look at with, owner building. And with a traditional publisher, it's funny enough, John Gray wanted to call his book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and no publisher would take him on. And he kept pushing and saying no. Well, he got knocked back. And then he finally got a publisher that wasn't like a bigger publisher sort of thing at the time. And I think they had said, all right, then we'll publish the book. because a lot of traditional publishers will choose the title, they'll choose the cover, they'll choose what can be in it and what can't be in it. And you might have something that's really important that you really, really want in it. You know, you feel that that's great. And they can manipulate it how they want because their outcome is book sales. The other thing that people don't understand with traditional publishing is you still got to write it. You still got to give them a manuscript. You know, we have people all the time say, oh, I want to write a book. I thought they'd want it. They said, yeah, give us the manuscript. It's like, well, I don't even know where to start. You know, I'm working with my team at the moment. My mind goes everywhere. How do I structure it so that the reader is following it and it's appealing and it's a page turner, you know? So the difference is too, regardless, even if you go to traditional, you still got to write it and get it to manuscript. So I found that gap in the market that if you really want to write a book and not have to worry about whether you get accepted or not, you know, if you've got something that you want to share and it's, you know, and it's going to grow your business, it's going to make a difference, then you can get a team of people to sort of do it with you, but essentially they can do it for you, all the logistics that you don't need to know. And so, yeah, self-publishing is great in the sense that more people can get their book published, but it also is sometimes, like anything, there's always that yin and yang, that there's a lot of sort of average books out there at the moment because anyone can put it up. So the quality of what we deliver is a lot better. We're traditional publishing quality, but all the benefits of a self-published book. So I suppose that's our difference. But look, if you just want to get a book out there, you know, there is so many opportunities to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you guys are like the one-stop shop though. So people can come and, as you say, you coach people first so they really do have a clear understanding and you have a clear understanding of what is it they're trying to get across. Because you've got an extraordinarily impressive stable of books under the Dean Publishing banner. I was a bit blown away by some of them. I was just saying that I noticed that you've got Erica Kramer, who of course is an amazing podcaster, the Confidence Chronicles. You've got her book underneath your label at the moment, and I just saw last night she actually won an Osmompreneur Award, so congratulations to her.
I was getting in there for that, but yeah, no, Erica is a perfect example, someone that was growing. And even when she started with us, I've just watched her exponentially grow since publishing the book, because the book not only gets your message out there, but it gives you something to talk about. It gives you media attention because everyone, you know, wants to know, well, what's in the book? It's easy. If you've written a book, then you're going to have some content, right? The other thing is it builds that authority, but also you've got something to give to someone that when they read it and they see it, they're like, wow, if she gives this much information in a book, or he gives this much information in a book, what would it be like to work with them, or what else do they do? And so we've helped Erica, you know, do workbooks and do cards. She's got beautiful inspirational cards, quote cards for people. So, you know, I get to, like I said, watch her business grow and see what she's doing next. But I knew where she was going, and that's where I get to be passionate. I watch them go where they said they were going to go, because they're just out there, you know, putting themselves out there. And writing a book is a big deal. It's you're putting it out there. You know, we go through what we call author anxiety. You know, we say to people, don't worry, that's just author anxiety. You know, they get to the end. Is it good enough? Is it, you know, yes, it is, you know. There's always going to be some more you're going to put in there or whatever it be. But, you know, and we get them through that to say, you know, this is an amazing book. You need to get it out there. And, you know, Erica's book, like I said, she sold thousands of copies, and done extremely well with the book. But it's more about what's the book going to bring them to. So the book now brings them to her sisterhood and brings them to her other coaching and things like that. But yeah, we've got Erica, we've got some amazing people coming through, just extraordinary people that have built businesses up. But the backstory, you know, we've got, I'm not going to give it all away, but we've got Macro Mike that does the gut-friendly food. I don't know whether you know that, but he's in Coles and all the major supermarkets. His backstory is so cool. You would never know it. You know, KX Pilates, you know, we've got so many people's book, Kat Johns, we've got all these people coming through. You know, Katie Stevens, just so many people that you may see out there on Instagram and they've got their podcasts and everything, but now they're sharing, they can, you know, you can grab their story, their backstory, and say, well, wow, if they can do that with what they dealt with, well, I can too. So it doesn't always have to be that. It can be that story of success or that story of where did they come from and look where they are now. Maybe I can too. So it inspires others to move up and do that as well. So no, we love all our authors. They're all a part of our family, and yeah, we just love watching them get, more successful and win awards and do all of those amazing things.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It really is. And I think, I'm very lucky, I suppose, as a writer myself, to know a number of incredible people who have published books, beautiful books. And it is such a big job, as you say, but also such a huge commitment of your heart and soul for people to put that story, all their expertise into a book. I think it's really interesting. I love that you said that about, is it going to be good enough? Oh, am I, because I think often, and I've discussed this a lot in this podcast, as women, there seems to be this men too, but more so women, tend to suffer from imposter syndrome, and we constantly have to check ourselves. So it's really beautiful to hear that you and your team can hold someone's hand and sort of help get them through that, because it is quite a fearful thing to put yourself out there if you're a creative in anything that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's everything from, self-doubt. What if I put it out there? What if people don't like it? We're putting ourselves out there every day now on socials and things that we didn't have to worry about before. I'd run home from school and get the phone with the cord at the end of it, and Mummy would be like, get off the phone, it's costing a fortune.
You and me both. We used to only have one phone, and it was in the kitchen on the wall. And I was hugely jealous of my girlfriends, Patsy and Rachel, who had the long cord. They could drag the phone into their bedroom.
I had the long cord, but we had a little.
Oh, lucky.
Yeah, but I think, it's in life, in anything, whether we're putting ourselves out in a book, whether we're standing on stage, whether we're hopping on a podcast. I think the cool thing is, as you get older, you do seem to not care so much.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think the message that we want to give the younger ones is, don't worry so much. You're going to worry about all of this. Just be you and you'll find your tribe. I always say, I just be me. I'm really a preparation person when it comes to jumping on a podcast or speaking, launching books and things, because I just be in the moment and just be me, so I don't have to be anyone else. But you do. We as females, we always worry. But the people that I see succeeding now more and more are people that are just themselves.
Yeah, I agree.
I remember going to a talk and they said, you look at a fence, there's going to be people that sit there and the haters, the lovers, and the ones that sit in between. You can't please them all. Just be you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm a big believer that, your authentic self is 100% the only way to go, because the reality is, if you want to wear a mask, you can only hold it for so long, right? And you're right. The beautiful part about getting older is exactly that you end up really not worrying so much about what anybody else thinks. And, I think that's kind of really a beautiful time in life for people to start telling their stories as well.
Yeah, it is. And I think that when we heal, my other belief is too, that when we do self-development and we heal, and we get rid of all that negative talk, and that we get to like ourselves. We've got to love ourselves, because when we're proud of who we are, because we're doing things. I see my daughter last night when we launched a compilation book that she's a part of, and she's my youngest daughter. She's 27, turning 28, and she's basically. Well, she's given me my gorgeous granddaughter and a grandson on the way. But she was in the book, and I just watched her shine. She jumped on and did another share on her Instagram. And I looked at her, and my husband was like, look how amazing she is. And I said, yeah, but I feel proud. You know why? I said, and normally it's like we don't own it. But I went, I showed her by example, by being, by doing, by overcoming my fears, standing on stage when I was nervous. You know, I started with the old Mary Kay, knocking on the door and going to a stranger's house to sell makeup. I'm sure that was definitely my apprenticeship. You know, the thing is that she watched. I didn't tell her what to do. I didn't say that you should be this way or you should be that way or you need to do this and you need to do that. I just was me. And then they watch and go, how do you get up there, Mum? Like, my heart was pounding for you. What if people didn't like you? And I remember at the back, you know, and they say the story now, they sit there and we were red and scared. What if they're mean to my mum? And what if they don't buy anything? And they're at the back and we giggle about it now. And I said, but I did it anyway. And so they see that. So now they go, well, if Mum could do it, I should be able to do it. So I think we've got to lead by example, and whether it's your mother or whether it's somebody else, I still believe that when people make their own decisions, when they read a story and they say, maybe I could too, or maybe I could do that, they're making that decision. They're not being told. And that's why I think even back as far as a youth worker or coaching, we're not there to tell people what to do. We're there to explore with them, to ask them questions, to get them to draw out, to understand what they could do, what they could decide to do themselves. And so, you know, I think that, you know, again, comes back to story. When people can share their story, you don't know who's going to read that to say, I could do that too.
Yeah, that's the most powerful part of all of this, isn't it? I mean, I think as women in our age bracket, because I'm in my 50s as well, is that I do feel as I get older more and more responsibility to be kind of a beacon for younger women as well. I would say, like, we like to bring our younger sisters up too, because I think it is very much that we have to lead by example. We have to allow them to see that perhaps getting older, you know, doesn't make your life less. It actually makes it more, and that we are vibrant and dynamic, and that we're doing out in the world doing great stuff. Right. You know, when I started Women Beyond 40, and I know you'll laugh about this because you do love a story, but when I started Women Beyond 40, we were out like talking to male investors who said to me that no one was, I really can't see that anyone's going to be interested in the stories of women, let alone women over 40. And that lit a fire under my ass to go and do it. So I think, and to prove them wrong. And I think that's exactly what you're doing in your business as well, is igniting a flame within people to say, you can do this. Your story is important. Your expertise is going to help so many people.
Yeah, I think the saddest thing is that we leave with this earth, this dimension with our knowledge in us. We didn't go through, you know, we're there to go through our lessons, to go through our learnings, but to take them with us, you know, is really sad, because you don't know, even if you touch one person's life, even if you've made a difference to one person's life, you know. But to me, we want to get the books out there in as many different forms. And the difference that we do too, that coming from an entrepreneurial background and knowing we're always growing and we're always learning, I have an app that's attached to the book. So that's Dean Library app. And that allows you to put video, because I know people are auditory, kinesthetic, visual. And so our books have an app attached where you can, you know, access the book, you know, from your phone, laptop, all devices basically. And you can read the book, but you can add in a little video that has the reader connect with the author on a completely different level. You can have downloads of meditation. You know, if you're a person that does something that you need to show that's really hard to put in a diagram or in print, you can pop that in. There's quizzes, there's lots of things in there, so that then the reader is really engaging on another level, and they're using all of their, you know, visual, auditory, kinesthetic skills to learn more, you know, to take that in. So the app was developed so that when people grow and they might later on do an event, or they might learn something else, they can add to it, so the book becomes a bit evergreen and grows with them as well.
How fantastic is that? And I'm loving to, like, if anyone, look, and we'll put all the links up to your site, so don't worry about that, everyone. But you also do audio books as well through Dean Publishing.
Yeah, we've got a purpose-built audio book room. We've got an 18-seater stage theatre that we, are going to be branching out to help people, craft their story from stage and different things like that, we're always thinking, well, what else do people need that we could help them essentially with? But, yes, we do audio books. We've got a purpose-built room, or we can do it remotely with our audio technicians. We want people to be able to access the information wherever they want to access it. Do they want to buy it off the author? Do they want to access it off their phone, which we're all on, a lot of the times? Do they want to do it on their computer? Do they want to listen overnight? How else do we get it to them? Do they want to go and attend an event where the person, trains them more on different things? How do they want to do that? So for us, it's just about serving all these amazing people that aren't just authors, they're entrepreneurs, they're successful business owners, they're people with a message to share. How do we help them share it in as many ways as possible?
Perfect. And so next steps, because people will be listening and thinking, I've got a story and I've always wanted to write a book, but I've been really unsure on what I'm going to do with it. What are their next steps? So what does that look like, I guess, for the average person who contacts you guys and says, I've got a bit of a story?
Look, I think that it's really important to know that, it's a bit like, you've got to look at what's the reason that you're writing the story. And you've got to think about, who's this to? And I think that it's not just about the book, to invest the time. Like, funny enough, John Gray, get this, he gets $1 million advance to go and write a book, And he said, a book, it's so much work. He said, it takes me away from all of my other work. I have to lock myself away. I have to get into the role of the creative. He said, it's hard work for me. He said, would I choose to do it? Not necessarily. He said, but when you get $1 million check and you go, he says, I kind of locked myself away for 4 months and try and, pull it together. But the point is that not everyone wants to do that. I think what's important is, what do you want the story to do? So if it's a story, for example, and you want to help others and you just want to get it out there, we've got what we call a compilation series called Your Share It Forward Teachings. And, we just launched one of the books last night, Thriving, which got Don Tolman in it. It's got cooking. It's got people that have healed their sons. It's got every form of stories around health mindset. We've got Erica in there. We've got Jane there. We've got so many different people inside of this book. So we've got people from all around the world that go into each series. So then they might go, well, I just really want to make a difference. We had an extraordinary first book in the series called Resilience. So many amazing stories in there as well. So if you just want that, then you might want to be in a compilation book. So you're sharing forward your stories with lots of other people and the series is growing. Or if you are a business owner, successful, you want to use the book to grow your business. You want to invest in the book, because you're going to get a return on it. You don't make a lot of money from books. You can still make some money, and we show you how to do that so that you own it all, but you're never going to get rich from a book. You can't do a book to go, I'm going to retire on it, essentially. Maybe even John Gray says, the book got him then people to go and do his courses and go and do his events and things like that. So it's the lead into that. So if you're a business owner, you're successful and you can see the benefit in investing, then do your own book. You've got enough content. You've been, but if you've just got a strong story, we can help put it in a chapter. So it really depends what you want. So to reach out, they get to talk to me. Why? Because I don't want to give up that job. I don't want to give up that role. Yeah. Everyone else does everything else, but I want to talk to the people. I want to make sure that I'm helping and serving them. So they get to speak to me. And that's just going to the website and clicking on Speak with an Expert. But that comes to me at the moment. I'll jump on, have a chat, direct you on what's best, because at the end of the day, my favorite movie, Miracle on 34th Street, he was there to serve. If it's better down the road because this is what you need, if we're the right people for you, then we can help you in this way or this way. But if not, I want to add value so that you can go away and get what you need. So I do those calls. And then if you want to work with us, obviously then we get into some coaching and then you work with all the teams. So it's just a conversation first to see what you want the book to do. Have a think about what you want your story to do, and then, find the best path for you.
I love that. So what would be your advice to anybody who's sitting there listening and saying, oh, I don't think my story is going to be powerful enough, or I don't think I've got enough expertise? What would be your advice?
Oh, look, we get that all the time. My story doesn't matter. It's not enough. One of the stories in there is about a lady that, a gentleman that fell over, and you think, oh, he fell over and he went to hospital and he hurt his leg and things like that. But the lessons that he teaches you along the way, the how he wasn't a victim, what he did, how he reached out for help, they're life lessons that even if you didn't fall over, you could learn from. So everyone has a story. Every single person has a story to share. There's lessons that you've learned. If you've been born and you've lived life, there's lessons you've learned. Everyone has a story. So every story does matter, and every story can change someone's life. So never underestimate the power of story. The other thing is expertise. We have many people, oh, maybe I'll wait until I've been in a coach for 15 years and 20 years. And, I've only just started in this realm. Great. Let's write a story from what you know now and where you are now, because there can always be a book too, if you want. But the point is that, what they say, there's never a right time. The right time is now, because you just don't know who you can help with your story. And then the book itself can help grow your business as well. So if you go, I'm not right there yet, but I haven't got enough knowledge, the book helps you introduce yourself. And that's how I grew my coaching business, which is a lot of why I do what I do, is because I use books to grow my coaching business. When I couldn't work with someone, they had my book. Erica Kramer says the same. If someone can't work with me and they can just afford a $30 book, here's my knowledge. Here's something for you to learn from. And so it's also about you being able to help more people by having a book, and also, like I said, using the book then to get out there and promote what else, products and services that you do that people may not know about. And it's a nice little segue into finding more out about you. And let's face it, people want to work with people that they know, like, and trust nowadays. It's not about a big, beautiful Coca-Cola logo. It's like, do I trust you? Do I want to work with you? People's bullshit meters are pretty big now. They can sense someone if they're authentic or not. And I think that by doing a book and putting yourself out there, it's showing who you are, you're being authentic, and it's allowing you to attract the people that are going to be attracted to you because they are. And, so yeah, any time to write a book is a good time.
I love that. I think any time for people to share their stories is exciting and important. So I absolutely love what you're doing, and I love the passion that you have, and how beautiful as well that your two beautiful daughters are working with you in that business now. How incredible is that?
Oh, it's just the best. And I just didn't imagine it to be this good. So when you have a dream and then the dream becomes even better than what you thought, it is pretty great. And they're just loving it. And the point is, they came in and found their role and they're excelling in it. And without them, I can tell you now, my Instagram would not look as good as it does, because they, and we have fun. They're like, Mum, do this, do that. It'll get lots of likes. It'll be funny. It looks good. And I'm just like, do all these stupid things, and we laugh when we do them, and we have so much fun. But they keep the youth in here. They keep it, modern and up to date, and, and they add massive value. And now it's even more, they're watching the way I lead team. They're watching the way that I handle situations that don't go great. They know how I under promise, over deliver. How do you manage it if someone's not okay? Well, what system do we put in place? So they're watching what I do. And so as leaders, they'll take over and they'll continue the business, and it will outlive me, which is something that is pretty amazing. And yeah, they love what they do. They're creating their best life as well, which is, what you want for your children. You want them to be happy and create their best life. So I'm being able to show them, how do you create your best life? And they're doing that now. They say, we are living the best life. We love what we do. I have to send them home. You finish work, go home. They over-deliver as well. So, yeah, pretty blessed.
It's pretty amazing. I'm absolutely thrilled to chat with you today and find out all about what you're doing. I think it's brilliant. I love, as a heart-centric business owner, that you are as well, and it's really evident and it comes across that you are. I am going to be putting up all of the links in our show notes and across socials when the podcast comes out, so that everyone, Susan, can get in touch with you, and Dean Publishing. And if you have a story to share, if you have wisdom and expertise to share, reach out to Susan, have a chat, because one conversation could change their life, right, Susan?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Good Girl Confessional podcast. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is brought to you by WB40, Women Beyond 40 magazine, available now at WB40.com. The Good Girl Confessional podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to quality podcasts. We're also now available on YouTube. We chat with really interesting women about their hard-won wisdom, but it really helps us if you can subscribe, like, and share the podcast. Thanks so much for your support. Bye for now.